Hello there gamers, this is Frags, and I've been playing a ton of Diablo for whenever I have the time to play the game. And certain things about the game, especially this thing that I want to talk about, has been nagging me, at the back of my head that there's a bit of a sense of dissatisfaction. And I've watched this online. I've seen many people actually complain about this thing in Diablo 4, and what I want to talk to you about is level scaling in Diablo 4. So Diablo 4, as you know, has this thing called level scaling. That means as you level up, the creatures, the trash mobs that are around you in the world level up together as well. So basically the level, they are more buffed up, they have more HPs, and they hit harder. And what that means is that when a player goes anywhere in any direction in Diablo 4, you never feel like you're a uber barbarian or a necromancer. What all the enemies are just as challenging as they were from the very beginning of the game. However, there is some caveat to that, which I will get into a little later. Basically, when we compare this game with, say, another action RPG game, one of my favorite games, Grim Dawn, for instance. I know not many people play this game, but let me explain to you about how Grim Dawn does this. Grim Dawn does not have level scaling, at least to the extent of like what Diablo 4 is doing. So if you go back to an old zone where you started, the starter zone, the enemies would be pretty basic, and like you could just destroy them in like a single hit, or maybe even just staring at them and they die, into like a piñata of meat and blood. In Grim Dawn, there is a reason to go back to the old zone because there's this whole faction mechanic, and like there are dynamic quests that you can take just to gain extra additional loot items and stuff like that, and improve your relationship with that particular faction or with a particular faction. So Grim Dawn does force you to go back to the old zones, but it does not rework the old zone to be at your same level, except for the dungeon part, where I think the dungeon is close to your level or a few levels below. I've always enjoyed that in Grim Dawn. I think Grim Dawn is one of the most satisfying like action RPGs out there. However, I feel like in Diablo 4, Blizzard, the developers for Diablo 4, sort of went for a slightly different sort of feel. I did listen to the devs talk about this. One is a dev diaries about Diablo is about that perfect sort of spot of at sometimes you are just slightly overpowered and things die a lot faster, and then you realize the longer you play, you realize that certain monsters now take slightly longer to kill them. It's this is the perfect sweet spot. You're not like totally overpowering them, or you're not like totally underpowered, so this is what they were trying to strive for when they developed Diablo 4, and I feel like they have that to a certain extent, but I think maybe not enough though, because one of my pet peeves with the Diablo 4 UI is that you open the journal screen and here you go, you see entire side quests and quests are all at your same level. So it begs that question, why did they even bother putting a level number in the UI if everything is going to be just your own level, except for maybe some nightmare quests and stuff which is like 2 or 3 levels higher than yours. So I really don't see the purpose of actually putting the level in these journal entries here if everything is just going to be your level. So my guess is that maybe this is just a holdover of their design, where they probably tested level scaling and when there is no level scaling, and they sort of kind of decided that okay, let's do level scaling, right? So maybe that's just a vestigial limb that is a holdover from the past testing in Diablo 4. However, I gotta say that by using level scaling the way Blizzard has done, perhaps going into zones and stuff is a little bit more boring actually, in a way, because everything is just the same thing, and like you just got to like spam this few batches of your skills at them and destroy the trash mobs. And I think over time it gives the game its real grind feeling. It's really a grindy game, and I know that sounds ridiculous considering that this is actually an action RPG and action RPGs are a grind, but Diablo 4 more than any other game, I guess, feels even more grindy because of this level scaling. Now, having said that though, I can understand where the Blizzard developers are coming from though. So the main core of a Diablo 4 game, I'm not talking about any other Diablo games, but Diablo 4 specifically is they want to focus on loot and abilities and your skills, basically loot, ability, skill, which is why they completely removed the ability to put a point into some of your character attributes, for instance. That's completely removed in D4, right? So they are focusing on item and skills, right? These are what you're going to be using to improve your gameplay, to feel stronger than the enemy, right? So it's a very much more micro heavy focus to a certain extent. You got to use a certain skill imbuement and attack using this thing, and then sort of like destroy them using the skill that you have, basically. Not so much in terms of I'm so powerful because I'm level 50 or 60 or 70 that I'm going to just run through these mobs like nothing. No, it's about what you have unlocked actually, not what your class level is. So in a way they are sort of removing this link, between level and your enjoyment to the game. They want to really focus on the loot drops, the grind, right? So which is a good thing. I think that is a good thing, but I still feel they could, instead of hard coding it like all enemies are going to be at your same level, they could do it like a range, like from 3 to 4 levels below you to your level. It could be randomized. It could be like, okay, the special mobs would be at your same level, but the real trash mobs would be like 2 levels down and stuff. I would much prefer that sort of system than just a hard coded like if you're level 50 trash mobs, I prefer something with a range rather than that. So I understand that the entire design of D4 is to sort of like repetitive, right? You got to go back to the old zones. There's no such thing as a beginner tier zone and a higher level tier zone. All zones are equal because of this auto leveling thing. So by the end game, you are supposed to play through everything, play through all the nightmare dungeons and stuff to find new loot and to level up at higher levels and stuff like that, which is why they actually need to do the level scaling. I understand that from a fundamental mechanics standpoint for D4, the devs had no choice but to include level scaling. But as I mentioned, I feel the level scaling is a bit too hard-coded, a bit too harsh. They should allow for a range for certain zones or certain types of enemies, for instance. I would much prefer that. You would still feel powerful and you still enjoy that game. Honestly, I don't know whether Blizzard is going to touch on the level scaling or anything like that, since they're really focusing more on seasonal content and end-game content and stuff. I think level scaling is more of an issue for new to mid-tier sort of characters you're playing through the campaign and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not sure whether they are going to allow for a soft level scaling option that gives you a range rather than a hard, like at your own level kind of thing. Anyway, that's my thoughts on D4. I've been enjoying it so far. I understand the whole thing is very micro heavy and using a lot of hotkeys for a lot of the things. It's still okay. It's still tolerable for like a 40-year-old guy like me. I'm still okay with using like keyboard shortcuts for about 3 or 4 different skills. Still manageable to me. But I don't know, what do you guys think about D4? Tell me about your experiences of playing the game and how you found the game to be. That's it for now. This is Frag signing off. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.